and I'm going to give you a short tutorial on that just in case you missed it or you need a review. So this assignment, we're going to use classic tweens and panning to create a short animation of a kite and where it travels. So you can see up here, oops, okay, I'm just going to move this over here. I have my animation, and this is what it's ultimately going to look like when it's finished, but hopefully your background is going to have a lot more detail than mine. I just kind of made something quickly just as an example. So if I click into Flash here, Control, Test Scene, you can see that my kite is flying up, and it looks like the camera is moving the entire time following that kite. And just as a reminder, that is called panning. So I had to move up, then zoom in, zoom back out. Now the kite is flying down. So that's what you're going to do for this assignment. You're going to make your own background. It can be anything creative. And you're going to have your kite fly around so it goes on a mini journey. So how we're going to start with this is you're going to make a background. And if I zoom out here, you can zoom out up here or press Command minus, let's do 25%. I want to zoom out so I can see all of this background because I'm going to make my background bigger than this screen. Okay, so let me pick my fill first. I'm going to stick with this gradient here, and I'm going to go to the rectangle tool and make sure you're on the right layer. Let's name this layer right now so we don't get confused. Background. So I'm going to drag and make a big background. So I have my background. The next thing you want to do is you want to build this background up as much as you can. So say you want your kite to start off at the house and a child lets it go. So then it floats all the way up. Then maybe it floats over to the beach. So you would draw your beach over here. So it's going to be a couple scenes on one background. You can see I put my background in here, okay, so I'm going to start with this rather than building up one now. The next step you would do is you want to make another layer. Let me just name this one. You want to make another layer, and if I hide this layer, the background, you can see that our background is much bigger than the stage. And whatever is in the stage is what's going to be in the animation. So if it's off the stage, you're not going to see it. So to make it easier on ourselves, we're going to make a box around this stage so that we can see at what point what is in the frame. So to do that, you're going to pick a stroke color that is bright enough that you're going to see it over your background. And you're going to go to your fill color, and we don't want a fill. We just want an outline around that box. So this is the selection for no fill. Okay, I'm going to name this layer. I'm just gonna name it, you could name it guide or box. I'm just gonna, let's do box guide. And that should be on top of the background layer, that way it's above, because anything on top is going to be above what's on underneath it. So I'm gonna go to my rectangle tool now, and I can zoom in a little bit, Command plus, or you can go and click it right here. I'm just gonna go to this corner, and make that box there. So now if I unhide the background, you can see that I'm aware of what is being seen in the animation. Okay? So all of this outside of the box is not in my animation. So let's go back, and I'm going to animate the background first, and then I'm going to animate the kite after. So I'm going to go into the background here, and where do I want it to start? You always want to see where it's going to start, and I think I want it to start up here. Down here, actually. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now let me just check my library because I want my background to be a symbol. And I copied and pasted this from my finished product, so I just wanted to double check. I don't see it in here. I see, this is a picture I used to help make my background, but I don't see the symbol. So I'm going to make my background a symbol first, because if I'm going to eventually zoom in and zoom out, that's what we're going to want to do. So I'm going to click on this keyframe so that everything's selected here. Okay, so I have this everything selected. I'm going to go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and let's name it Background. And we're going to, for type, pick Graphic. Okay. So now you can see that blue box is around it, so we know that's a symbol. It's got this little cross in the corner, and if we look in our library, it's added to that. So if I wanted another background, I could pull it out, and another one would appear, but it's behind that. So I'm going to undo that. Okay, so now we have our background. I have where I want it to start on the first keyframe, so if I'm going to move it, I need another keyframe. So let's say by frame 80, I want this kite to fly up to the moon. So I'm going to make a keyframe copy on frame 80, which again is F6, and this is where I want it to start, this is where I want it to end. Okay, right now we didn't move anything yet. And also you can see that my box here that's showing me what's in the animation is disappearing. That's because we need to extend the keyframe. So to extend the keyframe, I'm going to press F5 because I don't need a copy of the keyframe, which would be F6, because I'm not changing anything. I just want to extend it, so F5. So now I can see what's in the keyframe when I move this. So beginning, end. Where do I want this background to end? I want it to end up here. So I'm moving that down to what I want to be in the frame. Okay? Now, if I go from here to here, it's a little bit jumpy. And let me fix that a little bit. Down. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is put in the classic tween, click anywhere in between these two keyframes, right click, and create classic tween, or you can click anywhere in between and go to Modify, Insert Classic Tween. And there's our tween. So now if I scrub through this, you can see that it's moving from one spot to another spot. So when we actually view the scene, it's going to look like a camera is panning the scene, which is another word for surveying the scene. So here's my first move. Okay. Now I want say I want it to zoom in on the moon. I'm going to make another keyframe. See how far. Maybe that happens a little faster. So F6, and remember, right now we have 24 frames per second. So for every 24 frames, it's 1 second worth of animation. And I'm actually going to put it down to 22 because, like I've told you guys, when we export these, which we will go over, we've had a couple problems with 24 frames per second. So now it's 22 frames equal 1 second of animation. Okay, so this is where we left off. I'm going to extend my box again. Okay, where do I want it to end now? At this point, I want it to be zoomed in. So I'm going to go to my free transform tool and hold shift to constrain the proportions. If I don't hold shift, see how it can change like that? But if I hold shift, it's keeping those proportions the same. So I'm going to make this bigger. Oopsies, don't want to do that. Okay. Maybe I want it a little smaller. There we go. So I have where I want it to start. I have where I want it to end. I'm going to click in the middle, create classic tween. Okay. And and now you can see it's zooming in. Okay. Now after this, my plan for this is to have the kite go in front of the moon, and then it's going to come down here by the city. So I'm going to go another couple frames, and again, I'm just kind of doing this very quickly, but you should try and be aware of the timing when you're putting the frames in. Let's watch this through. If I test the scene, you can see a little bit of my box outline there, but we're going to get rid of that layer at the end anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, so that's going very, very fast, especially right by the silhouette of the skyline. So what you're going to do then is you're going to add more keyframes to here. I don't know if I'm going to add too many because last time it was giving me a little trouble. But I'll add a couple. Probably we could use a little more. But anyways, we're going to move on. So now I'm going to add another layer, and this is going to be my kite. Same kind of deal. I'm going to start the first frame here. Let's make my kite. I think I have a stroke. Maybe my kite will be like a red. Okay, I'm going to create it off the stage here for now. Zoom in a little bit. And grab my selection tool. You can kind of play with those edges a little bit. Transform. Don't forget, double click if it's, oops, and I undouble clicked it. You want to double click so that you get the outline selected as well. Okay, so here's my kite. I'm just going to draw a string really quick. You can make yours much more detailed if you'd like. So now I have to make this kite a symbol. So I'm going to click on here to select it all, modify, convert to symbol. I'm going to name it kite, make sure it's graphic, press OK. You can see it adds to the library. Okay. If you want to go to the library back to your properties, just click right in there. Okay. So let's make this a lot smaller right now because we want to fit it in here. Okay, so this is where I wanted to start, and this is the same thing as the background, how you used it with the classic tweens. So say at this point, or I don't even have to line it up with this. Say at this point, F6, I want my kite to be over here, and I want it to turn this way and be smaller. Okay, I just insert the classic tween. You had the before, you have the after, and now it's transitioning. Okay, same thing over here now. F6, and it does, like I said, it doesn't have to match up with these keyframes. It could be anywhere. So now I want my kite to fly. Should probably zoom in a little bit. Down here. Okay. And then once it zooms in here, I'm going to want my kite to kind of be in front of the moon, I think. So at that point, there, create classic tween. So you can see now it's going in front of the moon as it zooms in. Okay, and then I would start moving it down in front of the background. But so you get the main idea, and that's how I got to this final stage. Okay, so again, I did that exact same sequence to put it together, and you end up with your kite journey.